Good day, life science students. Welcome to video lecture episode 6. Today we're still continuing in chapter 24, Interactions of Life, and we're just had recently started section 3. Now we concluded our last lecture with a picture of a zebra eating, and we had two questions: which is the producer, which is the consumer? As it should be obvious at this point, the consumer would be the zebra consuming the plant, and therefore what is being consumed by the zebra is the producer. Now, if you look on slide 81, you see some more examples of producers. On slide 82, you see some examples of herbivores, that being consumers that eat plants only. Then we see on slide 83 animals that consume both plants and meat, being omnivores, and some examples there. And slide 84 showing some consumers that consume meat only, and just two of those examples I'll mention briefly, which are on the slide there, is the lion and the eagle. And then the last type of consumer is the decomposers. And if you notice, we got some examples there: the worm, the mushroom, insects, and bacteria. And remember, decomposers break down dead things and reintroduce the nutrients back into the environment. Now we're going to talk about food chains. Ecology includes the study of how organisms depend on each other for food. A food chain, by definition, is a simple model of feeding relationships in an ecosystem. And I gave an example there on slide 86 with a picture as well. There's the shrubs, which would be the producers, which are consumed by the deer. There's the deer, which is the primary consumer, that is an herbivore eating the shrub, which is eaten by a mountain lion, which is a carnivore. And then the decomposers in that system would be eating the mountain lion and even the deer once both have died and will return their nutrients back to the soil. Slide 87 just has another picture of a food chain just to visualize. On slide 88 we have another picture, but this food chain gets a little bit deeper with showing a food pyramid. And as you notice within the food pyramid, it shows how energy is transferred through the biosphere. And if you notice, it gradually shrinks as it goes up there. In other words, it goes only about 10% transfers from one level to the next. Just keep that in mind. And that's why larger species that are up near the quaternary and the tertiary consumers, they have to eat more because not as much energy is being given to them, so they have to consume more to get their needs. Now, as we close this lecture today, we're going to talk about symbiotic relationships. So let's define symbiosis. Symbiosis is any close relationship between species, and there's three types that we're going to talk about: mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. All right, so let's talk about that first one, and that is mutualism. Mutualism is defined this way: both organisms benefit from the relationship. Now, an example that's given on slide 90 is the lichen, which is two organisms living together, an algae or cyanobacterium with a fungus. The fungus provides protected space that the algae can live. The algae or cyanobacterium provides energy for itself and the fungus. And if you've ever noticed, you've seen these before, these crusty lichens. They live on trees, fences, and rocks. And if you look at the image on slide 90 on the far right hand side, you'll see what I'm talking about. And you've probably actually seen these before, either in actual life or on a show or in a book you read. On slide 91 and 92, I just had some more examples, including, of course, a character from the Hobbit series, Radagast the Brown, who actually had a lichen. If you notice the big arrow on slide 80, not 80, but 91, that's pointing to his face, visualizing what I'm talking about. Now, moving to slide 93, we're going to get into the second of those three categorizations within symbiosis, which is commensalism. And what commensalism is, by definition, is where one organism benefits and the other is not affected. Now, an example that we've given here is a marine aquarium. Now, a sea anemone, they use their tentacles to capture prey. The tentacles have a mild poison. Now, the clownfish can swim in the sea anemone unharmed. The sea anemone protects the clownfish from predators. The clownfish is helped, and the sea anemone is neither helped or harmed, but helps provide a benefit to the clownfish. So see in that example of commensalism. Now, if you look at slide 94, this image should be familiar if you've seen Finding Nemo. And I think it's just really a nice way to visualize commensalism in a fun way we've seen before and didn't realize we were actually visualizing and watching at the time. Now let's finish up our last two slides for today, and that'll be slide 95 and 96. We're going to conclude with our third of the three types of symbiosis, and that's parasitism. Parasitism is a relationship where one organism benefits and the other is harmed. Now, an example of this is cats or dogs can have roundworms. Now, if you're not familiar with what a roundworm is, it's a little small organism that can live within the intestines and actually can be damaging. So let me talk a little bit about that. The roundworm attaches to the intestine and feeds on nutrients in the puppy's blood. Now, the symptoms of this are abdominal pain, bloating, diarrhea, and if there's a severe enough infection, it can lead to death. So this is not something that's just merely a bad experience. It can actually be very deadly. Now let's look at slide 96. Okay, let's look at slide 96. And once again, it's going to give us a graph showing all those forms of symbiosis that we talked about. Mutualism on the top, followed by commensalism, and lastly parasitism. And the examples it gives here are some fairly similar ones. Well, at least the first one's fairly similar in the sense that we have the sea anemone and the clownfish being in mutualism. We see there that the barnacle and the whale, that's commensalism, and we see parasitism with the tick and the dog. All right, I do hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comments below or reach out and send me an email. Have a nice day, and I look forward to speaking with you in our next video lecture. Goodbye.